This is your Crystal Palace autopsy and you are most welcome to it. It saddens me, but I'm going to have to preface my remarks from those nitwits in the audience who would seek to tell us, after being thumped by a bunch of low-life chancers such as Crystal Palace, who have no place in the top tier of football, and I'll come on to that, they would tell us to calm down. I'm not throwing chairs around, I'm not screaming and swearing and hurling profanities into the camera. And I haven't been doing it off camera either. I'm just deeply saddened by the whole mess, and a mess that many of us saw coming so clearly. But this mob will tell us to calm down. And they're the same people who can't speak properly. They can only communicate in fridge magnet slogans. Wouldn't want to do a Leeds. Careful what you wish for. Just meaningless phraseology designed to negate discussion and shirk analysis. Did you watch Spurs in the 90s? Yeah, I did. Have you got a time machine? Are we going to go back now? I have to dig out some of my old tracksuits. The transfer window was yet another window that failed to address key complaints, and I'd like to present to you exhibits marked T for Tongi and G for Gill. Nuno is many things, but he doesn't strike me as stupid. He knew we were crying out for a switch or three at Selhurst Park, but he also knew what burdened his thoughts was the fact that he didn't have those switches on his bench. I refuse to believe that the situation left him feeling anything less than deeply uncomfortable. As for, well, what can you do when a player gets injured or sent off? The simple answer is that you have solutions on your bench and not leftovers. Football is a contact sport, and to imagine that one can have one player per position on the park plus some odd ones is not naive, it's simply criminal. On Tanganga specifically, the temperament of players, and this is something we need to address, so it might bore some of you, but this is truly important. The temperament of players is something that needs to be worked on by ensuring that the group get the right guidance along the path of their development. Perhaps by discussing incidents that occurred with other sides in other games. The old let the shipwrecks of others be your markers in the storm sketch, where you can sit down and show an incident where a player made a bad mistake, a colossal error of judgment, just as Tanganga did, and point out and just say to the room, what do you think about that? How do we look at that behaviour? Most of these guys are very young men. And where is the duty of care? I'm left wondering after that game, if Tanganga, is everything okay at home? He's been chucking it about recently. And this business of the bear hug and all the rest of it. I like the guy. I've been very forthright and open about that. But his performance against Palace made me feel that he would be more at home in a nightclub or one of those security guards that infest second-rate shopping centres. And that leads us on to Dombele. This situation needs to be resolved. And by resolved, I mean fixed within a specific time frame, opposed to just to wander on and on and on and on. Dan Kilpatrick of The Standard told us that the boy arrived back from paternity leave and had left some at the club concerned about his weight. That was published in a national newspaper. And this was a complete, outright lie, total untruth. There was a photo taken in the dressing room or the Hotspur Way or somewhere. And we saw a picture of the lad, not a spare ounce on him, fresh as a daisy. The problem is not him sat there eating Ben and Jerry's. That's not the issue. He's on £200,000 a week, and we need to stop dodging questions and make him work. If he can't work, then it's beyond everybody's pay grade. Then we get in a barrister and we terminate his contract. I've lost patience with his journey. The updates aren't worth the paper they're written on, and the club need to get on with it. They need to bite the bullet. Do we have a CEO? Do we have an active CEO? Or does your biggest asset kind of just sit there in the garage? Haven't got the key for it. And as far as Emerson Royale is concerned, let's look at the third goal. I've put the stills up to make it easier, by the way, because the video, it moves too quick, and you know, I don't have Sky Sports technology yet. When the break was on, Emerson, number 12 shirt, is further up the field, which is fine, as I made the point in my reaction piece. Had he been playing for a decent side, then he might have become an interesting attacking asset. However, the problem that he's far too slow in sensing the danger, getting back. Worse yet, Joe Rodon follows the Eric Dyer playbook, and instead of staying with his man, instead opts to head towards the ball, thus creating space. And we can see where the attacker, the ultimate goal scorer, is coming through. By the time Emerson has caught up and got goal side of Edouard, the shot had already been released, and it was too late. At this juncture, because there was an awful lot of, I have to say, for my mind, it's kind of like hysterics around a number of the players that we bought. But here's a fact that may have escaped some of you. I don't know. Forgive me if you're aware of it. But when you say, oh yeah, Emerson's good. Barcelona paid just 8 million for him back in June. Now, if you need, you need to talk that through in your own mind. Just work out, what would you get for an 8 million quid's worth of right back in the Premier League in the 21st century? To be honest with you, I think we're looking down the list here. I think we're looking at the sort of player that maybe, I was going to say Norwich, but their right back's worth more than 8 million. Maybe Brentford, I don't know. Watford, Wolves. For a club with top 4 aspirations, there are glaring alarm bells more or less everywhere you look in this current squad. As far as existing personnel are concerned, Winks, who we covered, that little toad's passing was nigh on 90%. And that just says it all to me. 90%, so what? Achieve nothing. Dele Alli is being played, and this is my summation, my speculation. My suspicion is that Dele Alli is being played despite his performances in training, and that this is a Levy plant, this is a put-up job. I'm not talking in simple language about putting him in the shop window, but just that there is this disproportionate sense of belief in the boy that all he needs is ... and he's going to come through. Which would explain why he doesn't have a clearly defined role in the team anymore. A heat map without heat just about sums this boy up. Ali has gone from an utterly inconsistent attacking player to a footballing butterfly with a licence to roam and to no good purpose. At first glance, we look at Dele's passing accuracy. Looks to be decent enough. But under closer inspection, this was largely down to how little involvement he had in the game. And this is one of these little cul-de-sacs you can run into when you're looking at the numbers, because you'll see 100% underneath this particular discipline. And so, that's pretty good. 100% dribbling. He only dribbled twice, they were both successful, 100%. 2 dribbles isn't awful, but 100% makes it sound much more than it is. His 18 attempted passes were more or less 50% less than he delivered against Watford. And his average number of attempted passes is 38.36. To add insult to injury, he lost the ball 9 times, and on 5 occasions this was in his own half. Based upon this player's history and recent form, we're looking at someone who simply isn't good enough to be at a club with the aspirations of Tottenham Hotspur. Anyone holding out for Dele Alli to return to the player they hope he might become is naive in the extreme. There's nothing to suggest he's capable of achieving the required levels of consistency. Those too stubborn to insist that the boy will come good are heading for a miracle, waiting on a miracle. I warned you that if we played somebody good, we would get hurt. And what actually happened was we kind of traded off because we didn't play anybody good. I stand by that, put that on my gravestone. It's getting very busy now with a lot of final words. But Palace ain't good. Palace are not the bizzo. Palace are Palace. Palace should be in the Championship. We boosted Palace by losing 2 first-choice defenders. One's in Croatia and the other one hurt his foot. And the red card was something that sanity could have easily avoided. And that goes back to my talk about development of players. I think when that phrase is used, we're talking about, how fast they can run from here and what their heart monitor's saying. I'm talking about the club's responsibility. You've got a place there which is effectively like a hotel. They're spending, like a leisure resort, they're spending so much of their time there. I think there should be a sense of, and I'm not talking about the woman who pours the fruit juice in the refectory or whatever in the morning, but just the people there being part of a bigger process of bringing these lads on. Even the inept Palace couldn't screw up the gifts that we handed them. And so, Thursday evening, we now have Rennie's Woolworths Invitational Challenge Cup. That is Europe's third tier of football. And that's followed by Chelsea at home. I can only imagine that touts will be selling away tickets at 1,000 times face value, just for the laughs. And in the old words of the Crime Watch show, don't have nightmares, do sleep well, and keep it Tottenham.